And welcome in to this edition of Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, the Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine that includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. He is Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green, and Denny. The regular season has come and gone. The SEC championship game has come and gone. What started out as 8-1 and very promising ends with a 2-game losing streak. Your thoughts as a whole on the Gators' 8-3 mark here in 2020?
It's that LSU game, right? It's like if they would have gone 9-2, I think we said this going into the season of 9-2 was that mark, or 2 losses was that mark. Anything above is a disappointment. Anything below is a higher expectation than what we had. If you look back on the whole season, and you can say they should have won the Texas A&M game, but we kind of all knew there was that one game in a full SEC schedule that could come up and get you. It's that LSU game that hurts. It's that LSU game that stings, and you don't know with the way they played Saturday night if they had been in the playoff or not. If they had won that, nobody knows. So there's no use in going down that road. But as far as just the overall feeling of the season, man, that LSU game hurts more now than it did almost a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to tell you 8-3 at the beginning of the year, you kind of would have probably not have been all that happy with it. But the way it transpired, you were 8-1, controlled your own destiny for the college football playoff, and you suffered one heartbreaking loss, another loss where you were in the game with the best team in the land. And going back to the SEC championship game, it played out exactly as we thought.
Well, if I'm going to play Mr. Positivity here, if you had said at the beginning of the year we had 3 losses, you would have assumed that we lost to Georgia. Did not. Florida is notorious, even in the good years, for having those games where they get blown out, right? It's like just some random game where they lose by 21. That didn't happen.
Lost 3 games by 12 points.
Right. So I think there's a lot of things that you can look back. You can go, okay, they won the East. They took the East back over. And now it is next year. It's all about who's going to establish dominance between them and Georgia long term. So I think that there are a lot of really good things to look at from this year. There's a lot of things to be concerned. I'm much more concerned at the end of this year than I was at the end of last year about moving forward. I will say that. Not even close. A lot more concerned.
Because Pitts, Tony, Grimes, Trask.
The weapons that people thought we were losing last year, we actually are losing this year. Kadarius Toney ended up being one of the best players in college football. I mean, what a spectacular player he is. So that one's going to hurt. But you've got to have a sense of, okay, Dan Mullen is an elite level coach. I know he just lost 2 in a row. But if you take a big step back and you see what he's done in this program, and the fact that he just took Alabama to the very, very end, you've got to feel comfortable from a coaching perspective with him. The obvious question is, what does he do around him? There are some staff changes that need to be made. Is he going to do that? And if he does that, who does he bring in?
The way it sounded at the Cotton Bowl press conference that Todd Grantham wasn't going anywhere.
Well, I mean, I don't think he's going to say anything until he does. I mean, that would be borderline classless to go, yes, this is Todd Grantham's last game.
Right, no, but it made it, right, no, I understand that, but it made it seem like, I mean, the way I read into his comments about Grantham and coaching changes is that nothing was immediate. Like, if it was going to happen, he's going to take a long time to think about it.
This is not going to be a popular opinion, and I know that saying this. If Dan Mullen can sit down and say, okay, we're going to bring in, I don't know who it would be, as a air quote co-D coordinator. Don't have to give him the title. And you keep Grantham. And there's a big shift or change in the thinking behind how we get to the quarterback and coverage situations. That's the best case scenario. Because Grantham is a great recruiter. And Grantham and Mullen, you know, they want to establish a long-term relationship there at the University of Florida. If that can't happen, then you have to get rid of him. Grantham can no longer be in charge of the X's and O's and game planning. On the defensive side of the ball, he can't be trusted. He proved that against LSU, and he didn't do anything against Alabama, Granted, Alabama is loaded. He didn't do anything Alabama to correct that issue. But if you could keep him on a recruiting level and keep him from a player relationship level, that would be a huge win. I don't think that's going to happen, though.
I'm of the opinion, you tell me if I'm right or not, that this historically good Gator offense this year was essentially wasted by a pathetic defense. Is that too harsh?
Yeah, I think it's a little too harsh because there's a couple things. I've heard a couple people say that. And I would agree initially until I think about it a little bit. Here's what this Gator offense did that means it's not wasted. It reestablished an offensive identity in Gainesville. That if you go back through the history of Florida football, you can go to some pretty good defenses. Florida's always been known for offense. They've got a good quarterback room. I talked with Brian Johnson this week, and he's like, "Look, we're good at quarterback. We're solid there." They've got good young receivers, but now the expectation is what just happened on the field offensively for all of those players. If they continue that level, then the expectation for the upcoming freshmen and the upcoming classes will be the same. That's how you build a program, right? It's not about that wins and losses initially with that one team. It's what Alabama does. It's being able to change and have those same level of expectations, that same demand for excellence every single year on the offensive side of the football. I think that's what this Florida offense did. And I think in a way, Dan Mullen, Brian Johnson doing this with Kyle Trask didn't do anything but help those expectations moving forward for future recruits.
Well, I'll tell you why I say that. The 3 games they lost, they scored 38 against A&M, 34 against LSU, and 46 against Alabama. 46, 38, and 34 points respectfully, and you lose all 3 of those games. That's frustrating. If they had a below average defense, not a terrible defense, just below average, they win maybe all 3, probably at least 2 of those games, and they're in the college football playoff right now. It took a horrible defense to keep them away from the college football playoff.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right on that. And I'm looking more at the long-term program view because as a Florida fan, I don't want a good team. I want a good program. We all want what Alabama's built. There can only be one Alabama, or maybe 2 if you count Clemson, right?
Yeah.
But I at least want to get to that Georgia territory where I know going in that the expectation every single year is to play in Atlanta and to hopefully make a college football semifinal. That was fun. To have that expectation was fun. You've got to get there before you get to the Alabama level. So I think there's steps in the process. I think the first step was taken.
All right, so a couple of things. We got the bowl game we'll get to. We'll obviously get to the news about Keontae Johnson, which is great. The show cause yesterday is certainly interesting. I want to get your thoughts on that. But to start out here, Kyle Pitts, I think like 12 hours after the SEC title game, sent out the thing on Twitter. He's gone, not going to play in the bowl game, going to the draft, and with good reason. There are some mock drafts that have him in the top 5 now. CBS Sports did a mock draft yesterday, had Pitts going 3rd to Cincinnati. The guy is a freak. He's a heck of a player, and he does not need to do anything else. Are you surprised that 4 days have gone by and we have not heard anything from Trask, Tony? I think Grimes sent out a one tweet, said thankful for being a Gator. But that's all we've heard from Grimes. Surprised that nothing has come from any of those guys other than Pitts in the last 4 days?
A little bit. I'm not surprised on Kyle because I think he's still thinking through the whole process.
You really think he is thinking? I mean, is there a chance he comes back?
No.
There's not a chance.
No. I don't think there's a chance he comes back. I think he's thinking through. The reason I was late coming in is we're prepping for our Pro Day Combine Senior Bowl prep class.
At 6 points.
At 6 points. I train quarterbacks for a living. There's a lot that goes into this. And it has nothing to do with Kyle. It's a couple other guys that have Senior Bowl invites. It's like, are you training with an exclusivity? Are you not training with exclusivity? When are you getting there? Where's your recovery time? Like, there's a lot of moving parts to this that I think you have to think through as a quarterback. The biggest moving part is, do I need this bowl game? Do I need this bowl game to go from the 6th quarterback to, is there a chance I could go to the 3rd or 4th? Or does it even matter? I think in Kyle's, if I'm Kyle, I don't play.
I don't play because you're already going to be without Pitts. And at this point, I'd be surprised if Grimes or Tony plays.
That's a great point. I wasn't even thinking about it from that way. I'm thinking because there's nothing I can do to move up at this point. Now it comes down to what do teams think of me, and there's no other film that I need to put down that's going to prove to people, what it is. Now, I will say this. Going out and seeing Zach Wilson yesterday probably makes him think, okay, well, hold on now. Am I going to lose ground if I don't play? There is this whole head thing going on, and I don't know what his people are thinking. I should find out fairly soon. But if my advice to Kyle Trask would be thank Gator Nation, get your recovery, get your relaxation, don't start training yet, use these next 2 weeks to completely recover, and then hop into the training. Enjoy the holidays, do whatever it is you've got to do. But the prudent thing is to not go risk injury. But the bigger thing, even if you don't get injured, and this is where I need people to start thinking with these young men, they're getting ready to go into a sprint of 4 months with the draft. Let your body recover. Give it that rest and recovery that it needs. Go put on 10 pounds real quick. Go eat everything you can find. Just veg out for a couple of weeks before we get to this sprint and before you get to the Senior Bowl.
Real quick, you mentioned Kadarius Toney. The CBS Sports mock draft that had Pitts going third, I believe had Toney going 21st. Can you remember in the last 10, 15 years, however long?
That's not going to happen, by the way.
But humor me here. Of Gator football, can you remember a guy that was an average player, did some nice things, got hurt, and he was a guy. And he went from a guy to this in 1 year's time.
No, not at Florida. I can't. Kadarius Toney's always shown us something, but it's always been the injury thing.
Right, but this senior year was different.
You can make the argument the last half of the season he was the best player on the team.
There's no doubt.
Counting Pitts and Trask.
And other than Devonta Smith,
I said this on the sports
maybe
channel,
the best wide receiver in college football.
You could make a legitimate argument outside of Najee Harris, I think. He was the best player on that field Saturday night. You would not be crazy to say that. He's that good. There's a piece of information that we had somebody text into the sports den the other day that I wasn't aware of. And then we confirmed it with one of our sources at Florida. He's probably going to run a high 4.5s, low 4.6 40. He's not that fast.
No.
And that's
he's just got
hurt.
Game speed.
Yeah, he's just so dang quick. He's one of those guys, if he went out and he laid a 4.41, he'd probably be a top 20 pick.
Yeah.
I mean, I told you a couple of weeks ago what my comparison is with him. I've never seen anybody outside of Tyreek Hill hit the ground moving faster than what he hits the ground moving faster than right away.
And I love the Tyreek Hill comparison.
Yeah.
And I give you credit for that every time. When you said that, it's like the light bulb went off. He does kind of look like a young Tyreek Hill.
Looks just like him.
And if he has half the career Tyreek Hill has had in the NFL, it'll be a great career for Kadarius Toney. Today's Gator Podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialist. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialist for any orthopedic injury or concern. You can log on to their website by going to se-ortho.com, and you can listen for Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, the good Dr. Kevin Murphy, on Thursday mornings in the 7 o'clock hour with Jeff and Dan right here on 1010XL for his weekly analysis of injuries in sports. Florida loses to Alabama. They finish, where were they in the final rankings? 10th maybe, 9th or 10th? Regardless, they're going to the Cotton Bowl.
Well, I thought they were 8th.
Are they 8th? Okay. They are going to the Cotton Bowl, and they're playing the Big 12 champion in the Oklahoma Sooners. On the surface, no Pitts. We'll see about Toney and Grimes. We'll see about Trask. You lost 2 heartbreakers back-to-back, and you have 10 days in between Alabama and playing Oklahoma. On the surface, I don't like the matchup for Florida all that much. Oklahoma is certainly going to be coming in with a lot more confidence. I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough putt out there in the state of Texas for the Gators.
I agree. I'm excited to see, assuming that Trask elects not to play, or even it's one of those things where curtain call type of thing.
It's in his home state.
I'm looking forward to seeing Emory in an expanded role. I'm looking forward to seeing Anthony Richardson. I'm looking forward to seeing Xavier Henderson. shorter. I want to see Rick Wells and I don't know if Rick's coming back or leaving. I don't know what he's decided to do.
Yeah. Kamari Gamble, Zipper.
Right. I'm looking forward to seeing those guys. The big question I would have if Dan Mullen was sitting right here right now, what are you going to use this bowl game for defensively? Because if I'm Dan Mullen, this is a free roll. Like does anybody care? Like if we win or lose that game, I would rather lose the game with a bunch of young guys that I can get excited about going next year. A bunch of guys that show me that they're not going to throw shoes and they're not going to do things like that on defense, then I would win a 50-46 game with the same crap we've seen all year defensively. That's just me. I'm excited to see that part of it because I do think there's some explosive and exciting pieces. You got to remember next year they lose a lot on the offensive line. I'm very bullish on the offensive line coach, staff, and I train his son to be transparent, so he's a friend of mine. But I love what Hevesy does. I love the way they've recruited the offensive line. I love the way they work the portal on the offensive line. They've got some dudes at running back. Like, they have got 2 former 5-stars, plus what they've got coming back, plus Emory and Anthony.
Hey, you forget Bozeman, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Bowman.
Bowman,
Yeah,
Bowman.
Yep.
DeMarcus Bowman.
And then Lingard.
Yeah, Lorenzo Lingard, who did not play at all this year.
Yeah.
Which was odd. He played very, very little, I should say.
What I've been told, and not from Florida, this was actually from Miami, was that he's got some developing to do from a blocking perspective and from just kind of knowing the game and not being a better athlete than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of things that could have this offense looking a lot different, but every bit as explosive.
You would have to think Jacob Copeland may turn into next year's guy.
Yeah,
that's the hope.
When you look at Copeland shorter, I think Rick Wells could be something really good if he decides to come back.
Whitmore will be healthy.
Yep, Whitmore, Xavier Henderson. When you look at those guys, there's weapons. When you put, Lingard, Bowman, Anthony Richardson, Emory Jones in that shuffle as well, there's a lot of good things that I would like to see what they look like now before, week 1, which I think is FAU next year, I believe. I want to see what they look like now before that comes up.
Yeah, next year's schedule is interesting. So it's like Florida, Atlantic, and South Florida.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate. So you're not playing Power 5 teams, but FAU and USF are not exactly the Citadel or Northeast Louisiana. So you got to come out a little bit guns a-blazing, don't you?
USF won 1 game.
Well, I get it, but FAU's going to a bowl game.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is it's not your typical, and plus, don't think those FAU kids.
You're favored by 30 in both of those games.
Probably. I don't like those games, and we'll have all offseason to talk about this. FAU and USF both. You beat them, you're supposed to. If you struggle with them, win close, or even lose, it's a gigantic story. Yeah. To me, there's very little benefit in playing games like that against teams like that in your own state, but that's a conversation for the month of August. In that game, next year, is Emory Jones a starting quarterback on the opening day?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think Emory grew a lot this year physically, but also within the offense. They feel like they've got the next 4 years taken care of
with Emory and Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. And we hadn't even gotten to this year's signing class at quarterback.
I keep hearing good things about Jalen Kitna. I keep hearing things.
I don't like Jalen Kitna.
You don't?
No. In fact, I'll be. I texted Brian Johnson after he committed, and I texted Brian, was like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, and he texted me back and said, "We absolutely love him. We are."
Why don't you like him?
I don't like his mechanics. I don't really like anything. Like, he's a big kid, but I can't look at him and go, they recruited him because he has this massive arm. He doesn't. They recruited him because he's fast. He's not. Like, I don't know why they recruited him, but my only guess.
This will be motivation for Jalen Kitna. He's going to run this on a loop over and over and over.
That's fine, Jalen. You can still come in 6 points. We can make you better. But my best guess is they want Kyle Trask again. They want a kid that they over-recruit, which is Jalen Kitna. Look at the other offers he had.
He was committed to, Boston College.
Right, and they want a kid who's going to be there 5 years. So you got it. And that's not a bad theory for colleges to do now. They're much better with the what's his name? The other kid from Georgia that just came.
Carlos Del Rio.
Del Rio's more of their style, more of their fit. He's more of an Emory Jones clone almost. And then they are right in the running for the best of the best in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So they're loaded at quarterback. But I think Emory starts. I think Anthony is right there. I think you see a lot of both of them. I think it's a different offense, but I think it's every bit as explosive and as fun to watch next year.
Yeah, like you said, when you look at the wide receivers, it will be Copeland, it will be Shorter, it will be Henderson, Whitmore, potentially Rick Wells. There are guys that will be returning, and of course the tight ends with Zipper and Kamari Gamble. Okay.
Is it weird to tell a Georgia quarterback I'm doing a Gator podcast right now that I'll call him back?
Yeah, to tell him hello from all of us here. Former Mandarin great, Mr. Football in the state of Florida. The show cause yesterday. You follow recruiting as close as I do. You're around these guys.
I've been busted with recruiting violations, just say it.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. What do Gator fans need to know about the issues that came up with Florida yesterday? And Denny, I thought one of the more interesting things is it seems like over half of their penalties were already met. Like they had issues that 2019 and 2020. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. We're about to enter 2021. Why did it come out yesterday?
I don't know why it ever came out. It's silly. So what happens is these 7-on-7 teams, these elite 7-on-7 teams, when they go and play these tournaments, they always do these college stops. And I hate them. I absolutely hate this part. I love 7-on-7, but I hate this part of it. So they take, the whole team to the University of Florida or Central Florida. Every college does it. Every 7-on-7 team does it. And there's restrictions inside of those visits about who can see them and what can be done. It's not an official visit. Apparently, Mullen spent too much time with a couple members of some team. Y'all, if you want to make fun of Dan Mullen for this, fine, but your favorite coach does the same thing. And if he's not doing the same thing, you need to get rid of him because he's not trying at all. Because it's easy access. They're literally on your campus taking a tour. Every college coach in America does this thing where it's like, oh, I had just stopped into the office, didn't know y'all were coming today. Oh, look, there's Mr. 5-Star. Why don't you come on in?
Yeah.
How's your mom and dad doing?
I was on my way to the coffee shop, turned the wrong way, and all of a sudden, miraculously came here.
Right.
To the football field where you're at.
How this even got exposed is beyond me, but the penalties are a joke, first off, and number two, completely unenforceable. Like, completely unenforceable.
So basically what you're saying, big picture, Gator fans, nothing to worry about.
Nothing at all to worry about. Like, if you worry about this, then you need to start going to therapy because you're worrying about the little things in life too much.
Got two final things I want to hit you with before we get there. I want to mention today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. They're Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center. They provide an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine that includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. I asked you if Emory Jones was going to be the starting quarterback next year. Now let me ask you this. Will Dan Mullen be the head coach at the beginning of the 2021 season for Florida?
That's a really good question.
A little more trepidation there. Now let's explain why there's trepidation there.
I mean, I think that Dan Mullen does have the NFL itch. I think he's what the NFL is looking for. I think what he showed with Kyle Trask is what the NFL wants to see. If Felipe Franks would have stayed there, we would not be having this conversation. If Felipe wouldn't have gotten hurt. But what Dan Mullen showed as an offensive guy, being able to throw the ball all over the yard whenever he wanted to, without any gimmicks, without any trick plays. I'm using air quotes on trick plays, zone reads, RPOs, that kind of stuff. That's what the NFL wants to see. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's going to be an NFL franchise that's going to put a full court press on Dan Mullen at some point. Is it this year? I don't know. It's only a natural progression to want to take that next step up. Going from the college game to the NFL game is such a quality of life improvement. People don't understand that. I don't have to recruit 17-year-olds anymore. Where do I sign up for that? I don't have to make 17-year-olds wait for 17-year-olds to make a decision. I get to pick them.
Well, I think that's the big issue. Knowing Dan Mullen the way you do, Does he enjoy recruiting?
Yeah,
or
he
is
does.
that a
He
hindrance?
does. That's the one thing. He enjoys the college game. Dan Mullen, a lot of this is lip service from a lot of these guys. It's not from Dan Mullen. He enjoys the buy-in of that age and the effect he has on those guys long term. And there's a lot of college coaches that do. A lot of college coaches that I don't necessarily like, but I will say are good men from that perspective. One of the best ones is Will Muschamp. Well, Will Muschamp loves that side of things. Urban Meyer, not so much. Like that's not what Urban Meyer's about. Dan Mullen is about that. So I think if there's a hang-up, that's it. I also think if Dan Mullen coaches in college, it'll be at the University of Florida. I think he'd be perfectly fine being there forever. But I think he'll be the head coach next year, but I don't think it'll be a 20-year career for Dan Mullen at the University of Florida. I think he'll get that itch and he'll get too good of a deal to turn down at the NFL level with way too much control, and he'll have to try it at some point.
Yeah, my take is, Dabo Swinney is about to play in his 4th consecutive national championship game. At some point, what more can you do in college? So I would imagine at some point he will have that college football itch, or that NFL itch, because he's accomplished everything there is to accomplish in college. Mullen's not there yet. Mullen has not brought an SEC championship to Gainesville as a head coach. He has obviously not brought a national title to Gainesville as a head coach. Do you believe Mullen wants to accomplish those things before he looks at the NFL?
I'm sure he does, but I think the NFL cares so little about that. If you look at their recent hires.
Right, I'm just talking about Mullen.
No, I know.
The NFL doesn't care.
But if you're going to do that, you got to strike while you're hot.
Yeah.
If you're going to, it's like the same scenario with Kyle Trask of, I'll use this example. Mac Jones, I could make a strong argument that Mac Jones needs to go back to Alabama for his senior year. I cannot make that same argument for Kyle Trask because Kyle Trask is never going to be hotter than what he is right now.
Did you see the CBS Sports mock yesterday where they had your boy Mac Jones? Number 5.
Wow, I hope. But anyway, with Dan Mullen, same situation. Is he ever going to be hotter in the NFL eyes as he is right now? Probably not. Doesn't matter if he wins a national championship or not. Like, you look at Cliff Kingsbury's of the world. They did nothing. They did nothing wins and losses wise in college, but they still got a ton of money to go to the NFL. So I think that you've got to look at that if you're Dan Mullen. If am I ever going to be hotter? If this is something I want to do now or next year, may be the time to do it.
We'll plan on actually looking at the Oklahoma game on game day next Wednesday. We'll be here for Gator Bytes, and we'll look at the game. It'll be that evening. Final thought, Keontae Johnson. What a roller coaster it was for a week and a half, basically. Been released from the hospital. I mean, good grief. What a miracle, a great story. When I saw the video of him collapsing in Tallahassee, Denny, that completely changed my opinion on the matter. I hadn't seen the video until probably the following Sunday or Monday. And when you saw the video, you really understood, man, this is bad. And then there was no news coming out of Tallahassee Memorial for a couple of days, and you truthfully didn't know. But then he releases the Instagram video, and his parents are releasing statements, and we find out he's been released from the hospital. What a great, great story, a great ending to what's been an awful year in 2020.
Yeah, we're also programmed to remember the bad experiences, the Hank Gathers of the world, that we forget about the medical community and what they've done to save lives in situations like this. And there's probably many, many more stories of that than Hank Gathers. But the way we're programmed as people is we're going to remember the negative that's going to burn into our mind. So I think we all went there. And then when you heard, the medically induced coma, things like that, it started adding up to, oh gosh, how's this going to end? Couldn't have asked for a better story.
Oh.
I mean, couldn't have asked for, and to see him on video gave me chills, saying, hey, I'm okay. So, great news for that young man right ahead of Christmas and his family. It's got to be a huge relief for that family. But big ups to the whole medical community, too, because they don't get enough credit for the good things they do.
We certainly appreciate everybody watching and listening to Gator Bytes on 1010XL.com and on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Happy holidays to all of you and your families. Denny Thompson, happy holidays, my friend.
Man. You too.
Have a terrific holiday, and we'll be back next Wednesday to break down the Cotton Bowl.
Can't wait.
That is Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. Have a terrific holiday season, and we'll talk to you next week here on 1010XL.com.